All right. Meanwhile, some Supreme Court justices appeared very skeptical about President Trump's power to impose sweeping global tariffs. They heard arguments yesterday on the president's use of emergency powers to put levies on imports from more than 100 countries. The outcome of this case could have major economic impacts on consumers, businesses, and U.S. government spending, as well as the scope and scale of presidential power. So let's bring in CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford, who's live in Washington, D.C. to talk more about this. Jan, it was really interesting listening to some of that sound yesterday from those justices, including the skepticism that they expressed at the president's legal team. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Vlad. I mean, obviously, the administration is arguing it has the power to impose these tariffs under this 1977 law that gives the president authority to, quote, regulate imports during national emergencies. But the main lawyer for the administration, when he started making that argument in court yesterday, he ran right into a united liberal wall of opposition. And it wasn't long before we saw some of the conservatives quickly jumping in with their own skepticism. I want to play you what I thought were three key exchanges in that argument yesterday that kind of illustrate that point. The first by senior liberal justice Sonia Sotomayor, kind of speaking for that three-justice liberal bloc. And then you had the Chief Justice John Roberts, joined by his fellow conservative justice Neil Gorsuch. Take a listen to this, Vlad.
I just don't understand this argument. It's not an article. It's a congressional power, not a presidential power to tax. And you want to say tariffs are not taxes, but that's exactly what they are.
Yes, of course, tariffs in dealings with foreign powers, but the vehicle is imposition of taxes on Americans, and that has always been the core power of Congress.
I want to explain to me how you draw the line. What would prohibit Congress from just abdicating all responsibility to regulate foreign commerce, for that matter, declare war, to the president?
So, Vlad, you've obviously got those three liberals and then potentially those two conservatives. That gives you five. That would potentially be a loss for the Trump administration if those join forces to strike down these tariffs. But wait, and this is why I have to caution people who listen to the first part of an argument and then kind of check out, because as that argument progressed, the other four conservatives started making what I thought were some pretty powerful points. So I would not caution on going to Vegas and betting the house that the president is going to lose this case. I mean, I think it probably looked likely after the argument, but anything can happen once the justices start trying to write this opinion and start kind of really reflecting on that argument. So I think on this one, Vlad, we're just going to have to wait and see what the opinion looks like.
Yeah, it was interesting, too, Jan, because the lawyers for the president were saying that these were not revenue-generating tariffs, right, which is something that that they argued would allow them to skirt the power of Congress to actually be the ones that put on those levies on interstate and international trade. But I thought it was interesting because the president of the United States is in front of cameras nearly every day saying how much money he's bringing into the United States because of the tariffs. So I wonder if the president, it's often been said that, you know, when you are arguing cases before justices, that you don't want your words to come back and bite you. Could that potentially hurt the president?
You know, I don't think so. And I totally agree with you. And there have been cases in the past where some of the president's, comments on social media were not particularly helpful to his legal case. But here, the administration is arguing that these are regulatory tariffs and that the underlying purpose, while, yes, they're bringing in revenue, is going to be paid or passed on, that the underlying purpose is so that the president can strike these deals. And the lawyer yesterday said these tariffs are most successful when no one is paying them. When, for example, China is saying, okay, you're going to slap a tariff on us, let's cut a deal. So I think that kind of cuts both ways. And, when you listen to some of the other arguments from some of the other conservatives who seemed a little more supportive, Vlad, it's a tough call on this one.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see how it all plays down. And I guess we should expect something, late this year, Jan, or early next year?
Potentially late this year, early next year. It's an expedited case. I don't think it's going to be as quick as that TikTok decision, which was about a week. But we should hear this one well before June, Vlad.
Got it. All right. Jan Crawford, always breaking it down. Thank you, Jan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about the economic impact with CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady, who's here in Studio 55. What's up?
Hey there.
All right, so several businesses and states are suing over the tariffs. I want to play a little bit of sound from a toy maker who spoke to our Maurice Dubois recently. Let's see what they had to say.
When the president says, make this stuff in the United States, you say what?
We've tried, we can't do it, and we don't see our competitors doing it. The government has chosen to hit us with a massive tax. I definitely want my money back. We're a family business in our 4th generation, and I really am not willing to allow a politician to ruin it.
Wow. So, I mean, him saying that he wants his money back, if the Supreme Court decides to go against the president on this, the United States will owe money to thousands, potentially thousands of businesses. And if they're like this guy, they're going to want their money back.
Well, that's right. And I think you hear that a lot from small businesses. Now, the money that would be at risk would be just from the tariffs that were using the IEEPA, as Jan was saying, right? And so through August, that's $89 billion.
Wow.
So, you know, it is tens of billions of dollars. And you would see that money go back. That's what's at stake. But on the flip side, there would also be a lot of uncertainty for these businesses because Treasury Secretary Besson has said if they lose the case, they have a lot of other options when it comes to tariffs in order to move forward with still being able to put pressure on those countries like Canada, Mexico, and China. So if you're a business, maybe you get the money back, but you're like, well, wait, hold on, am I going to have to pay this going forward? And then the other thing that I think is really interesting that might be at stake is leverage with China. Because remember, we have this ongoing trade negotiation. If China sees, well, wait, hold on a second, maybe the U.S. doesn't have as much leverage, have the ability to utilize these tariffs, that might change the course of how those trade negotiations happen.
And before you go, let me ask you, the president was being interviewed by Bret Baier over at Fox News, and Bret Baier, again, of course, a network that is friendly to the president, pointed out that part of the reason why Republicans got shellacked in this last election is because Democrats were running on affordability, and a lot of people, even people who support the president, are seeing their prices go up. President seemed to disregard that criticism. What is your understanding of how prices are doing now for consumer goods, for groceries, for fuel? How are people really feeling the pinch, or is this just a narrative that politicians use to run on, Democrats?
So particularly that you can see in the Post, it was about the Thanksgiving dinner. And he is right, by the way. For Walmart, it's the lowest their meal deal since 2019. And while turkey prices are up 40%, the sides and those things, those are down. Oil and gas is down. He is right that in comparison to the Biden administration, we don't have inflation at 9%, right? It's right around 3%. But Vlad, I think the issue is that when people think about affordability, they don't look at right now. They look at how things have changed for them over the past 5 years. Prices across the past 2 administrations have risen faster than wages. And that's why people feel that affordability issue. They don't just say like, oh, it's 3% now, we're good.
Yeah, right. All right, breaking it down as always, market down a little over 300 points. Anything happening out there?
A lot of uncertainty.
A lot of uncertainty. Gyrations. That's my favorite word when I talk about the stock market. Kelly O'Grady, good to see you.